So multi-step word problems. That word multi, like in multiple, multiply, means many. So many step word problems. Multiple step word or story problems are word problems that are just a bit trickier than normal word problems because they require you to do a lot of steps to find the correct answer. Okay? If third graders got everything right, this would be the one thing that everyone has trouble with because there's a lot of different steps. Okay, you got to be careful with multi-step word problems because there's so many steps. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working on today. Ways to solve a multi-step problem. Step 1, you got to read it. Can you read it more than once?
Yes.
Yes. If you need to read it 6 times, read it 6 times.
Write it down.
You have already had this written down. It's already in your notebook somewhere, but if you would like to write it again, that would be fine. Step 1, read the problem. You can read it more than once. You can read it 3 times, 4 times, as many times as it takes for you to get that answer correct. Step 2, know the unit. So many of you on your homework gave me a naked number. I had no unit. I had no idea what we were counting. No idea what we were trying to find. It's good practice to write it in a sentence. So they ask you a question, flip that question into an answer set. All of these steps are going to look real familiar. Step 3, make a plan and solve it. I need to see some math. Whether that means you're doing expanded form strategy, or maybe you need to draw a picture of some kind to think about what you're doing, that's fine. That's fine. But I need to see some math. Pictures, models, numbers, something. Something.
You don't like something, right?
Lastly, check your work. Now, don't worry about what's in purple. We'll talk about that later. Check your work. See if it makes sense. One of you, yesterday on your homework, it said you had 190 roses and 38 daisies, and then you gave away so many flowers, or whatever the problem was. And some of you wrote you had 960. How could you have 960 if you only started with 950? How is that possible? It doesn't make sense. You didn't check your work. Okay? You gotta make sure that your answer makes sense. That's probably the trickiest part of this. We're going to do this one together. Okay? What's the first step? What is the first step, Xavier?
Read the problem.
Read the problem. A green grocer had 115 apples and 115 green apples and 83 red apples. On Monday, he sold 72 apples. How many apples did the green grocer have left? Okay. So I know he had green apples and red apples, and then he sold some apples. So I need to know how many he has left. Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what you need to do? All right, we did step 1. We read the problem. Step 2. Step 2 2. What is step 2? Eva?
Know the unit.
Know the unit. A trick might be to underline the question sentence. So he wants to know how many apples did the greengrocer have left? What could be an answer sentence that I would write? If I were to flip that around and leave a space for my answer, Susanna?
I have blank.
How about the grocer has blank what? Apples. Does he want to know a specific kind of apples?
He just wants to know how many apples he has.
Does it say he wants to know how many green apples? No. He just wants to know how many apples he has left. Does he care how many green or red? No, just apples. Step 2, we know our unit. Step 3. What is step 3, Kate?
Make and solve it.
All right, what might be the first thing that we need to figure out? We're trying to figure out how many apples he has left. But what's the first thing that I might do, Matthew?
You might have to add both amounts of apples.
Yes, because right now I have 115 green apples and 83 red apples.
Okay.
So I need to know how many total apples I have first, right? So I'm going to add 115 plus 83. I'm going to use expanded form strategy. You don't have to. That's the strategy I'm going to use. I want you to solve this problem in your notebook.
You need to write the whole.
No, you don't need to write the question. You just need to write what I have in black. Okay? Because I'm going to give you these problems, so you're not writing.
I thought it was minus.
Why would it be minus?
Because it said a green.
Talk to me.
Roger had 115 green apples and 80.
So keep that in your head, Lene. I know where you're thinking. But we had to do the first step, which is how many apples we got. I don't know. I know we got some red and some green, but I don't know how many total. So you should be solving this in your notebook. I chose to use expanded form. You don't have to. Yep. If I'm using expanded form strategy, which column am I going to start with? Which column, Bryce? Ones. 5 ones plus 3 ones is going to give me how many ones, Jaden? 8. 10 plus 80 is going to give me, Lene? 90. 100 plus 0 is going to give me how much? 100. This number back in standard form, Jake? 198 what? 198 what? Apples. $198 apples. Questions about what I did? Are we good? Am I done? No. He has 198 apples. Done.
No. put your number and the green grocer has 9 apples.
Okay, so he has 198 apples. Is that correct? Are we done?
No.
No, there is another part to this. All we did was add his green apples and his red apples together. Did we talk about any that he sold? No. We haven't even done anything with the ones that he sold. So we know he has 198 apples, but he sold some. How many did he sell? Go ahead, Bryce. How many did he sell?
2.
So what operation am I going to use now, Bryce? If you have some apples and you sell some, what operation are you going to use? You're going to add, subtract, multiply, divide? Subtract. I'm going to subtract the total amount of apples. I'm going to put a little A there for apples. Subtract. How many did he sell? Xavier?
72.
72 what?
Apples.
There we go. I'm going to use expanded form strategy again. You can use any strategy you want. I'm going to give you a moment to solve that problem in your notebook. You can use any strategy you want. I just choose to use expanded form because I tend to get those questions correct when I use them. Do you have a question about math that I don't want to know right now? Here, do that. You've done this problem already. I'm going to start in which column? Which column will I start my subtraction, Natalie? Ones. And I'm going to start with the biggest number?
No. No. Yes. No.
No. No. I'm going to start with what number? The number that's on top. Now in this case, it's helpful because the biggest number is already on top. 8 subtract 2 is going to give me what, James?
8. 6.
6. 90 subtract 70. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that pretty easy. 90 subtract 70, Kaden? 20. And 100 subtract 0.
100.
100 subtract 0, Matthew? 100. All right, this number back in standard form. Kaylin?
126.
26 what? 126
Apples.
apples. Okay? Are we done now?
No.
What's going to be the thing that I need to do now? Eva, sit up. Bryce, what do I need to do now?
Check your work.
Before I check my work. Because I have a sentence that has a big old hole in it.
Put the number in the center.
Yeah. I know that 126 apples probably goes here. Did I make a plan and do some math to solve it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've done step 3. Now step 4 is what, Bryce? Kate, you want to help him out? Check your work. Check your work. This is where we would go through. We had to add two pretty large numbers together, and we got a large number, 198, pretty big. Then we subtracted 72, and we got a smaller number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if we got a big number over here, we would know that we did something wrong. But we got a small number. So I think we are correct. Step 4, done. Does this make sense? Okay.